In this video, we're going to talk about complex numbers. So remember, in the last lesson, we talked about how we're now going to expand our number system to include complex numbers. A complex number is a number that has the form a plus bi. Notice that a complex number has two parts. It has a, which is a real part, and b, which is the imaginary part. So 3 plus 4i is a complex number because 3 is the real part and 4 is the imaginary part. So let's write this as a complex number in standard form and identify the real and imaginary parts. Well, it already has the form a plus bi, so it already is in standard form. So we just write 17 plus 13i. The real part will be 7, and the imaginary part will be 13. So now let's write this number as a complex number in standard form and identify the real and imaginary parts. So this kind of number may look familiar to you because remember, it's the result that you get when solving problems using the quadratic equation. So we're going to see more of terms like this when we work on our quadratics unit, which is coming up here pretty soon. So I just want you to practice how to take this and convert it into a complex number in standard form. Well, remember, when we're working on that, we're going to focus in on the radical portion. So that square root of negative 81, I'm going to rewrite as the square root of 81 times the square root of negative 1. And that's over 3. Well, once I do that, this is going to become 2 plus or minus. The square root of 81 is 9, and then the square root of negative 1 is I. So that's over 3. So remember, what I can do here is I can take both terms in the numerator and divide by 3. So I can rewrite this as 2/3 plus or minus 9 over 3 I. Well, 9 over 3 is just 3, so I'm just going to rewrite this as 2/3 plus or minus 3i. Okay, so that means in standard form, that's what this looks like. Now it's in a plus bi form, so it's 2/3 plus or minus 3i. The real part is 2/3, and the imaginary part will be plus or minus 3. So now you can go ahead and pause the video and try doing this example on your own. So here we have 2 minus 3i. It is already in standard form, so the 2 is going to be the real part, and then the imaginary part is going to be negative 3. So now let's learn how to simplify complex numbers. You can simplify complex numbers using the methods we learned to simplify imaginary numbers. Remember what we did is we factored out the negative 1. That square root of negative 1 turns into I. Then remember we work on simplifying this radical we have. So the square root of 20 we write as the square root of 4 times the square root of 5 because 4 is a perfect square. Then we take the square root of 4, which gives us 2. Remember we put the I in front of the radical, so we get 2i square root of 5. So let's simplify this complex number. So what we can do, remember, is start off using those steps that we talked about. So we have 12 plus or minus the square root of 36 times the square root of negative 1. And that's all over 4. So we have 12 plus or minus, well, the square root of 36 is 6, and then square root of negative 1 is I. And that's going to be over 4. So since we want to write this as a complex number in standard form, I'm going to write this as 12 over 4 plus or minus 6 over 4i. So 12 over 4 is 3, and then plus or minus, well, 6 over 4, that's just going to reduce, right? Because both of these terms are divisible by 2, so this reduces to a 3, and this reduces to a 2. So that's going to become 3 plus or minus 3 over 2i. And that's how we write this as a complex number. So now let's try this example. We have 15 plus or minus the square root of negative 250. So let's work with that radical. We have 15 plus or minus the square root of 250, square root of negative 1. And that's all over 10. So now let's simplify this. We have 15 plus or minus, well, the square root of 250, it's not a perfect square, but I can pull out the perfect square, that's square root of 25. So I have square root of 25, square root of 10, square root of negative 1 is I, and that's all over 10. So that's going to give me 15 plus or minus, the square root of 25 is 5, and then I just have the square root of 10, and we have I, and that's all over 10. So now I can just work on getting this into standard form. So I have 15 over 10 plus or minus 5 square root of 10 I over 10. So 15 over 10 is going to reduce. That's going to become 3 over 2. And I have plus or minus 5 over 10. The 5 and 10 can reduce also. So we have 1 over 2. So that's just going to be the square root of 10 over 2, and we have I. So this is now in standard form. So now you can go ahead and pause the video and try doing this example on your own. So we're going to work on simplifying this. So from that square root of negative 4, we can factor out a square root of negative 1. The square root of 4 is 2, so this numerator is going to become 8 plus or minus 2i, and that's over 2. Well, everything in this is divisible by 2, right? Because if we rewrite this, we're going to get 8 over 2 plus or minus 2i over 2. Well, 8 over 2 is 4, and then 2i divided by 2 gives me just I. So the final answer is 4 plus or minus I. So a complex number a plus bi is in standard form. It has a real part a and an imaginary part b. You can simplify complex numbers using the methods we use to simplify imaginary numbers.